Well, there it is. Steve Borthwick's first squad as England head coach for the Six Nations 2023. And this is my initial thoughts. I'd love to know yours in the comments. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, hit that like button. Apparently it helps. And if you appreciate the content, then I really appreciate you doing that. But yeah, we've been waiting for this, haven't we? It's been a long time coming, but here we go. A first glimpse at what Steve Borthwick's England is going to look like. And as you can see from the squad, I'd actually say it's a good balance between feeling like things are being moved on and there is a new era, but also not feeling like it's ripping it up and starting again, which is, overall, I'm pretty happy. You can hear I'm losing my voice. That's not because I've been cheering. Just been a bit under the weather. But yeah, I'm generally happy. There's a few tweaks I might make, but I think we all have that kind of opinion. And that's what this is all about. Let's get into some opinions on this one then. So when you look at the back line, these are the players that have come into the squad. And this is where there's so many positives for me. Not just youth. I don't necessarily care about the age of the players. I'm just really excited by that bunch of players. Look how exciting a bunch of players they are. And there's definitely, as Steve Borthwick pointed out in his press conference, Premiership form is a big reason why these players are there. They're not there because they're young and promising. They're there because they're playing really well now. Joe Marchant, I mentioned on a previous video, one of the biggest disappointments of the Eddie Jones reign is the fact that he's going to be playing his rugby in France next season. I'm so glad he's back in. Dan Kelly, he's been coming back from injury, been a long time out injured, and he is the answer, one of very few answers we have in the England 12 jersey. He is the solution. I'm not as excited about Manu Tuolangi still being in the squad, but I also get it. Because as I've just said, there's so little option in the 12 position for England, and Manu Tuolangi is just the inevitable selection for any coach, it seems. And Steve Borthwick he's continued that trend anyway. Whether he deserves it on form or not is another matter. But then again, as I say, who do you pick instead of Manu Tuolangi? Because there aren't that many English 12s. Dan Kelly is one, and I'm really excited about him. Elliot Daly, the Premiership's form player, arguably, along with Theo McFarland, had he not got injured. But best English player in the Premiership this season. Tore it up again at the weekend and fully deserves to be back in the England squad and to silence some of his critics in years gone by. Alex Mitchell, that's one of the ones I'm most excited about in terms of revolutionising the way England play. The speed that he brings to the game, how well he's playing for Northampton. He's got to be England's starting 9 if I were choosing, but I'll get onto that in the next video. Finn Smith, I think he's just there on merit, don't get me wrong, but he's there until George Ford is back and playing. Ollie Hassel-Collins, so excited about him. Got to start against Scotland on the left wing. He's the all-round winger package. Big, mobile, brilliant finisher. So excited that Ollie Hassel-Collins is in. Max Malins has been playing well. He is in. That versatility he offers in the back line. And Caden Murley, a lot of people have been clamouring for him. He was in the England squad for the Autumn Nations Cup, and then inexplicably, when he looked like he was going to get his cap, when all the other wingers got injured, Johnny May straight back out of injury and into the starting lineup, jumped ahead of him. Not this time with Steve Borthwick. As for the forwards, Alex Dombrant, delighted to see him there at number 8. Nick Ezekwe, I don't think many people saw that one coming necessarily. His name might have got mentioned a little bit. Yeah, he might get in, but I think people were thinking Dave Ribbons looked really good in the autumn. He might continue. Alex Coles had his space there. Maybe it'll be him. Various other players. I didn't see Nick Ezekwe coming necessarily. Not surprised, and I'm happy to defer to Steve Borthwick on matters when it comes to the second row because he knows a thing or two about that. And then the other 3, fully justified on form in the Premiership. Ben Curry, I'm delighted for him. When you think about the story of Ben Curry, he was selected in that England squad to tour Argentina in 2017, along with Tom. And just before playing the Barbarians, which he was due to be on the bench, he got injured. Tom Curry got the spot on the bench, played really well, played himself into a starting spot against Argentina, and the rest is history. Ben Curry has been playing so well for Sale for 5 years since, and he's getting the recognition now. Ben Earl, along with Elliot Daly, the Premiership's best player this season, absolutely had to be in the squad, and that's fantastic to see. And Dan Cole, who cares about age when you've got a World Cup 9 months away? You just want a solid scrum, right? Dan Cole is one of the best routes to us actually achieving that. So those are the ins, the significant ins. As for changes I would make, this is where the opinion comes into the matter. What would you change out of Steve Borthwick's squad? And one of the things you quite often see when you look on Twitter and you look at videos and stuff is quite often people say, oh, so-and-so has to be in there, so-and-so has to be in there. But they never say who they would drop in their place. So I never do that. It's I will always say who I would drop, and I'll do it now. So Anthony Watson, I appreciate he's injured now. When he is fit and the way he was playing just before he got injured again, I think he is an elite level winger. Fully think he deserves his spot in the squad, and for me, would definitely be in contention to start for England when fit. And so if I had to drop someone in place of him, it would be Watson in, Malins out. Malins is a great player. I just think Watson is a little bit better, and they both have that versatility across the back line. Rafi Quirk, he's only just come back from injury. I would, assuming he gets back to playing the way he was before he got injured, Rafi Quirk would be in, Ben Youngs would be out. That's one I think Anthony Watson for Max Malins probably will happen. I think Rafi Quirk for Ben Youngs, now I've seen Ben Youngs in the squad, probably won't happen. That was one of the ones where I thought, it's not changing that much under Steve Borthwick, is it? Because Ben Youngs is still there, and he was kind of symbolic, emblematic of that Eddie Jones era. However, there's a lot you can change without needing to change the personnel. And bearing in mind the fact England have got a very good chance of facing Australia in the World Cup, possibly in the quarterfinals, maybe it's worth having Ben Youngs in the squad just for that, because he always seems to have an absolute blinder against Australia. Eddie Jones is Australia, maybe in 2023. And Henry Arundel, when he is fit and firing, he is a generational talent, unique skill set, absolutely has to be part of England. He's such an exciting runner, and we saw in glimpses of international rugby what he can do. Imagine if he gets the opportunity. And it's really hard to pick who you would change him in for, but it was a toss-up between Tommy Freeman and Caden Murley, and I came down on the side of saying Caden Murley, who I think's fantastic for Quins. I'm really pleased for him that he's in the squad, but like I say, you can't have everyone you want, and that is the hard decision I would make. That's the backline changes I would tweak if everyone's fit. I expect Watson to happen, possibly Arundel to happen, Quirk possibly not. Val Rapava-Ruskin, this is maybe the most the non-selection I was most disappointed about. I think he's been brilliant for Gloucester this season, and I think he deserves a spot for England. And at whatever he is, not nearly 130 kgs, I think he's got the potential to hold up a scrum opposite Frans Malherbe of South Africa if we come up against him. And Mako Vunipola, seasoned campaigner, and like I say, Steve Borthwick knows what he's talking about when it comes to front fives, and he loves a good set piece. So, you know what, you have to trust him on the selection of Mako Vunipola ahead of Val Rapava-Ruskin. I'm not sure it's one I would have done. And Fraser Balmain is not fit. Had he been fit and been continuing to play the way he was for Gloucester before he got injured, I would have had him in against Kyle Sinclair. I think Trevor Davison is maybe should be disappointed not to be in ahead of Kyle Sinclair. He's got a lot of credit in the bank. Sinclair's a great player in the loose. I'm not sure he warrants it purely on form that he has demonstrated, but he's definitely got the potential to get there, and maybe Steve Borthwick and his new coaching team can get the performances out of Kyle Sinclair we know he's capable of. And then don't forget about Joe Launchbury, over in Japan right now. Would have been at Wasps, has had major injury problems, but the last time he was fit for any length of time, he was England's player of the series in the Autumn Nations. What would that be, 2021? And I still think that kind of enforcer type second row and that work rate that he brings is something that Joe Launchbury shouldn't be ruled out for the purpose of a World Cup. And if that were to happen, then Nick Ezekwe would be there. Also, it's worth mentioning that Tom Curry will come back in when he's fit. Who should he come in for? Out of the list you can see there on screen, rather than coming in for his brother, I'd probably nudge Lewis Ludlam out as a result, but he could come in for his twin brother, which would be kind of bittersweet and cruel for them. But there you go. As for the final bit thing that Steve Borthwick said in his press conference, he announced his captains and vice captains. And what do you make of that? There's a lot of people don't like Owen Farrell. And I don't understand it. I think the guy is world class, probably the best 10 in the world. And I still think he's probably, not that I would pick him there, because I would pick him at 10 because he is the world's best 10. I think actually he is England's best 12 as well, which some people don't like to hear, but I just think that is the case. And I wouldn't rule out Ford Farrell as a 10-12 for the World Cup 2023. I think it could happen because Owen Farrell is that good. So it's another coach, another head coach. Add it to Warren Gatland, add it to Stuart Lancaster, add it to Eddie Jones, add it to Mark McCall, add it to people like Paul O'Connell, who absolutely love Owen Farrell as a player, as a leader, as a character. And I think he has got a bit of work to do on trying to get the referees on side. But he's got some good men around him. Courtney Laws and Ellis Genge can certainly help him with that. And also, I think Steve Borthwick is not the sort of guy that won't drop Owen Farrell just because he's captain. I think he would. And he's got two ready-made captains with club captain experience and international experience right there. So on the whole, happy. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to reading your comments and what you thought. The next video is going to be on what team I will pick for Scotland with those 36 names that Steve Borthwick has selected. On we go.